Eritrean officials have committed crimes against humanity: enslavement, imprisonment, torture.
How often did you see torture victims?
The country's led on fear.
This space was filled with inmates and you could hear them screaming.
Some were desperate. All were desperate.
One day, the truth will come out.
Tuesday night at 10 on MPT.
Catch up on your MPT favorites online anytime. Find them now at mpt.org/video.
Programs on MPT are made possible by our members and the following.
University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, leading the way on Chesapeake Bay restoration, while guiding our state, nation, and world toward a more sustainable future.
MCA Maryland has been on the job since 1927, building and maintaining the critical infrastructure in the Mid-Atlantic. At this challenging time, MCA contractors continue to provide an essential service to the community while strictly following the CDC guidelines for COVID-19.
State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening and welcome to State Circle. Coming up tonight, stories of the Cold War with legendary journalist Marvin Cowell. But first tonight, Governor Hogan has lifted the outdoor mask mandate in Maryland, and effective tomorrow, all restrictions on outdoor dining are lifted. As the COVID pandemic slows, the governor is still advising unvaccinated Marylanders to wear masks when social distancing is not possible. Students and staff at state universities will need to be vaccinated before the fall semester. We spoke to Chancellor Jay Perman about his decision on vaccines and also this week's settlement of the long-running HBCU lawsuit. Let's begin with the HBCU settlement news this week. 3 of the state's 4 historically black institutions are within the University System of Maryland. What do you think this means for them going forward?
Well, I don't think there's any question but that they are going to be able to enhance their programming so that the students at our HBCUs will have opportunities that they haven't had before. It's going to make a difference.
Does it mean anything? Certainly there's going to be more money for all 4 of the institutions. Does it change anything in terms of which campuses are going to be able to offer what programming?
I don't think so. I think that one of the things that's so important about the settlement is that it allows all of our institutions to move ahead with very good ideas that they have to make a difference to higher education in Maryland. The suit itself and the long period of time that this has been on the table has held everybody back, our HBCUs and our other institutions. Now we can all move ahead and create a very good system to enhance public education in Maryland.
Now, on the question of whether state institutions were going to mandate a COVID vaccine, you've announced a decision on that. What's it going to mean for students and faculty and staff?
Well, let me start by pointing out that these decisions are not made lightly, and paramount in making such a decision is what's right for the health and safety of all of the people that come to our campus. Our campuses are crucial to the state of Maryland. They educate our students. The students are needed in the workplace, makes a difference to the economy. Our graduates pay taxes. The investigators, the scholars on our campus improve the human condition. I say all of this, Jeff, because it is critical that we get back to business on our campus and stay active. It's an important matter. And therefore, we have to do whatever we can to ensure that there's no disruption on campus owing to this public health emergency. That's why we made this decision. We believe that if everybody is vaccinated that has regular business on campus, we are going to be in the best position possible to avoid an upswing of disease, particularly when there's the specter of variants coming from around the world.
What went into the decision-making process here, and were there any contrary voices coming from any of the campuses?
We had unanimity among leadership on the campuses, and importantly, they in turn consulted with their constituencies, the representatives of our faculty, our staff, our students. There was enthusiastic support. Now, I don't deny for a minute that there are people who have valid concerns about vaccination. I've read their letters, I listened to them, but we have to do what's best to ensure health and safety in this public health emergency.
I'm sure the university lawyers were consulted on the limits of the authority to have a mandate like this. What was their advice?
Well, that's a controversial area. Our lawyers for the system and the institutions are ultimately the Attorney General, the State Attorney General. And while I know there are differences of opinion in the legal community regarding our authority to do so, our Attorney General believes that it's totally appropriate for us to issue such a mandate. I noticed that I believe yesterday or the day before, the Attorney General of Virginia concluded the same for its public universities.
And I believe there are some potential exemptions for medical or religious situations. Let me ask you to put your medical doctor hat on, which you used to wear full time, and maybe you have it in storage somewhere along with
no
the
storage.
stuff.
I still do some of that.
And you were a pediatrician, right?
I am a pediatrician.
All right. So when we think about the impact of this terrible pandemic for young people in particular, and you're weighing the pros and cons of the vaccines, which have some really infrequent but very serious side effects apparently at this point, weigh that against the fact that young people have been to some degree spared by the pandemic to this point. And again, as you mentioned, the variants are out there. How do you think about all this?
Well, thank you for the question. My entire medical career has been spent weighing on an individual basis risks versus benefits. And that's what this discussion is all about, risks versus benefits. There isn't any question but that there are, as you point out, very infrequent side effects. So one has to decide whether the risk, in this case, of the disease significantly outweighs the possibility of some adverse event from the vaccine. And that's an important conversation. That's an important decision that one needs to make in this regard. What concerns me is the assumption that young people are somehow protected from this disease. We're not seeing that experience right now. We are seeing, for example, in Michigan, younger people hospitalized, younger people needing assistance with ventilation. So all are at risk. And of course, on our campuses, it's not just a matter of young people. And in the communities around our campuses, it's not just a matter of young people. All of our folks need protection.
With the policy in place, how normal can things be when the fall semester gets started?
Well, we're always going to go by public health guidance. I was just with some students out at Frostburg, and they said, "Chancellor, will we be able to get rid of the masks?" I sure hope so. I'm optimistic. We know already we can get rid of them probably outside. And, as more and more people become vaccinated, I'll bet that we're going to be able to be closer together. And I'm optimistic that there's going to be some relaxation of mask requirements by the fall.
How has this 15-month period impacted your core mission, which is educating young people? There have been all sorts of compromises in new technology and distance learning, and you have all sorts of programs from undergraduate to graduate and professional schools. The impact, it can't have been a net positive. What have you seen?
Well, I don't think there's any question but that we have been able to sustain our education mission. What we haven't been able to sustain as well as we would like are the important additional benefits of our students, our faculty and staff being together, being on campus, interacting with each other, learning the social graces, learning to be civil with each other, all things that are very important in America today and are part of higher education. That's suffered. What has also suffered are students that really need the on-campus environment, students that don't have a quiet place to study at home, students that don't have connectivity. We need those campuses back in action so that we can accommodate these needs. And the final thing I'll say is all that we've been through on the campus and beyond has taken a toll on mental health. That's why it's so important that we get back to business again.
And we know that a lot of the young people who hopefully are headed to Maryland institutions of higher learning have been impacted in their high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. The number of kids failing classes has gone up. What do you expect as the new wave of students comes on campus? I mean, I guess the good thing is they're familiar with the idea of distance learning, and maybe some of that technology is going to be useful.
Well, there's no question that because of all that we've experienced, we are in a much better position to depend on remote education when it's appropriate. But the other thing that enters my mind when you raise the issue is we are going to be very sensitive to the fact that the students coming in, the new students, they've lost something by all that has happened over the last 15 months. We're going to be needing to be sensitive to that and to assist as much as possible in order to make them as college ready as possible.
Last question, financial impact on the institutions that you represent. Over the last year and a half, certainly some unforeseen expenses, maybe fewer students, certainly nobody in the stands at ball games. What's the bottom line?
The bottom line is probably about $700 million over the last 15 months collectively to our institutions because of the factors that you raise and because of enhanced expenses. It's actually cost more to provide remote education, to deal with health and safety issues. So we've had decreased revenues, as you point out, increased expenses, reductions by the state, reductions in events revenue, revenue related to our housing, all of that. We've managed. We need our funding restored, but we have had a significant impact, and we're going to have to climb out of that.
University System Chancellor Jay Perman. Dr. Perman, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.
Now our conversation with a legend of broadcast journalism. Marvin Kalb is out with his 17th book, a memoir of his early career. Mr. Kalb was the Moscow correspondent for CBS News. He is now affiliated with the Foreign Policy Program at the Brookings Institution, where he focuses on the impact of media on public policy and politics. Mr. Kalb is also the host of the Kalb Report, Conversations at the National Press Club, which is presented to PBS stations by MPT. His new book is Assignment Russia, Becoming a Foreign Correspondent in the Crucible of the Cold War. Mr. Kalb, it is an honor to have you with us. If you don't mind, I'd like to skip to one of your best stories, which is set in Paris in 1960, early in a morning, and you are buying breakfast for one Nikita Khrushchev, who is the Soviet premier. How on earth did that happen?
what happened was that my responsibility at this summit was to look after the Russian angle. And that meant very much Khrushchev, who was a very dynamic figure. He loved the press. He loved to deal with reporters. He was not like his predecessor, Joseph Stalin, at all. Khrushchev liked to be out front. So I asked the foreign editor if he would be kind enough to give me a crew, and I would go to the Soviet embassy, be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, knowing that Khrushchev enjoyed going out for a morning walk. So at 7 o'clock, the gates of the Soviet embassy open up, and there comes Khrushchev with 2 bodyguards. I and my crew rushed toward them. The bodyguards stepped in front of Khrushchev, reached into their jacket, obviously, for weapons. And then Khrushchev, looking at me, said, "No, no, no, he's fine. He's Peter the Great." And that's something that Khrushchev nicknamed me back in 1956 when I said that I was 3 centimeters shorter than Tsar Peter the Great. So he thought that was great. So he kind of put me in that category. And we went for a brief walk, came upon one of those magnificent Parisian bakery shops, a boulangerie, and the aroma of croissant, freshly baked, wafted from the bakery right out in the street. I noticed Khrushchev stopped, took a sniff. I said, "Have you ever tried a croissant?" He said, "No." I rushed in, bought a bunch of croissants for him and his bodyguards, and for me and my crew. Khrushchev bit into it. His face lit up in joy. And he said, "No, это очень вкусно." That is really delicious. And I knew that I sort of had him in a good mood, and then started asking him questions about Berlin, disarmament, and what is he going to do when he met President Eisenhower the next day? And he gave me a really good interview. And it was, Jeff, my first foreign assignment and my first, quote, scoop. And I rushed back to CBS, and they were, of course, very happy to get it. And I was as well.
Helped, of course, that you spoke the language. And when you were hired directly by Edward R. Murrow, he was looking for a Russian expert, not necessarily an expert on journalism or broadcast journalism.
Well, Jeff, that is a very important point in my, quote, career, because I was not training to be a broadcast journalist at all. I was up at Harvard. I was doing PhD work, trying to get a job as a professor teaching Russian history. I did write for a number of magazines at that time. I did a piece on Soviet youth. It appeared in the New York Times Sunday magazine section. Murrow read it, apparently liked it, called me the following morning, invited me to come down to New York to talk to him. It was supposed to be 30 minutes, his secretary said. "No more, Mr. Kalb, 30 minutes. I said, "That's great." We went on for 3 hours. And that was because Murrow kept asking questions. He kept asking questions about Soviet youth when they sort of broke off on their own, when they married, their sense of religion, their sense of parentage. He was curious about everything because in those days, as you can remember, we were in the middle of the Cold War. The Soviet Union was our principal adversary. They had the nuclear weapons, they could destroy us. And Murrow wanted to know as much as possible about the Soviet Union. And when this 3 hours was over, put a big smile on his face, put his arm on my shoulder and said, "Marvin, how'd you like to join CBS?" Well, it took me a long time to give him an answer, about 1 or 2 seconds. I said, "Yes, sir." He hired me on the spot, really. And a number of other people at CBS were not pleased with that because they wanted a real journalist. They wanted a guy who understood how to use cameras, who understood the technical side of being a radio television reporter.
Mr. Calv, you've probably been told that you sound the part of a broadcast journalist. Did CBS train you in that too?
No, God gave me that.
Let's talk about your interest in Russia, which was not purely academic. Your parents were both from that region.
Yeah. Well, my mother was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and my father in a small town in Poland called Żyrardów. And they came to the United States, my mother in 1913, my father in 1914. They came with that false East European belief that in America, the streets were paved with gold, that you could bow before any religion. That was your responsibility, your feelings, private. They had been subjected to religious persecution. My father very much wanted economic opportunity, and he found the opportunity in this country. Didn't end up making a lot of money at all. In fact, very little, but he felt very strongly that America was a great country because it gave you the chance. And if you took full advantage of it, you could make it. And for me, this book, Assignment Russia, was my way, is my way of saying thank you to America. Because by welcoming my father in the opportunity to become a correspondent, that's a job I enjoyed immensely.
As a correspondent in Moscow, I'm sure you were followed all the time. And yes. Getting a report back to New York, there were no Zoom calls. So no. It was film, and you had to physically send the film, right?
Right. And this represented a huge challenge because the Russians believed that any footage that you took had to be developed in Russia, had to be cleared by Russian censors before they would allow you to ship it. And I was there with a camera at a great scene when the writer Boris Pasternak, who wrote the great novel Dr. Zhivago, when he died. And when he died, because he was a poet, hundreds and hundreds of Russians came to his dacha, his little home in Peredelkino outside of Moscow. And I went there with a camera. I took pictures. No one stopped me. But then there was the question at the end of the day, how do I get it to New York? So I ran to the airport when this was over. It was very late. I thought I spotted what we used to call a pigeon, somebody who would take your footage and carry it to New York. And I saw this woman sitting there, and I said, I'm going to make a try. Went over, befriended her. She looked at me, she began to hear me, and she said, I hear you, do I hear you on the radio? And I said, yes, I work for CBS, and I have a favor to ask of you. Oh, what is it? Anything. I said, would you please take my footage and bring it to New York? That's where you're going, right? Yes. She took it. I was thrilled. I had my pigeon, and I had the great footage of the Pasternak funeral, except, Jeff, it never got to New York. I don't know whether she dumped it herself, whether the Russians got a hold of it and threw it out. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was a devastating psychological setback for me. I thought I was on the edge of something really spectacular in cultural and journalistic terms, but the footage never got to New York.
With all of your years studying Russian history, living through the Cold War history there, when you look at Russia today, and of course the empire's largely gone, what does Vladimir Putin's Russia want? Not ideology as much as it used to be, right?
No, not ideology, I think, at all. What the Russians want now, more than anything else, is respect. For them, that is one of the most important features of international relations. If the United States respects Russia, well, then Putin feels that they're respecting him because he represents Russia. And at this particular point, he is, in my judgment, I could be wrong here, but in my judgment, I think he's in a bad way. I think all over the country today, Russian people feel that they are not being paid enough. Wages have gone down at the same time as the price of all consumer goods has gone up. And there is, you can sense this in the way in which the people are responding to Navalny, this political opponent of Putin. And there's an unhappiness in my judgment, an unhappiness in the land. And Putin, more than anything else, like any dictator, wants to keep power. And to keep power, he feels he has to somehow or another put down his own people and get from the United States the respect that he feels he deserves. And we in this country, I don't think he deserves that kind of respect. So there is that immediate tension.
In this country, respect for the media has been trending sharply downward in recent years. With your background at Murrow's CBS, what do you think when and if you watch the evening news or cable news?
Well, there's a difference. There's a huge difference now. And the largest difference, I think, in American journalism between the time that I was working with Murrow, and that's the 1950s, 60s, and now, is the technology. Today, you have the new technology. Today, you have social media. Today, you can broadcast live from anywhere. You would never be stuck with the footage of the Pasternak funeral. You would be doing that live directly to New York. So the journalist today has the advantage of the new technology, but the disadvantage of being regarded by tyrants and dictators all over the world as a representative of a particular point of view. And journalists today are in trouble. Journalists today are being killed all over the world just because they're journalists. In my time, we didn't feel that we were going to be killed. Maybe thrown into jail somewhere, but not killed. Today, there's that threat in addition to the new technology.
Our thanks to Mr. Kalb, and thank you for watching State Circle. Have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
MCA Maryland has been on the job since 1927, building and maintaining the critical infrastructure in the Mid-Atlantic. At this challenging time, MCA contractors continue to provide an essential service to the community while strictly following the CDC guidelines for COVID-19.
Next time on Midsummer Murders.
The mask went on after she received the blow to the head.
The murder of a 28-year-old has a strange resemblance
to a character in a medieval fresco.
The victim had a wild side.
The girl was shameless.
Still no reason for her to die.
Someone obviously thinks it was.
And the killer isn't finished.
2 tons of rubble fell on top of him.
First drowning, now stoning.
Midsummer Murders.
Tonight at 8 on MPT. You're watching MPT. Be informed. Be entertained. Be inspired.
Hi, I'm John Davis. Join us on the next Motor Week for a speedy good time in BMW's latest 4 Series coupe. Then we'll slide